Okay, just welcome everyone here tonight for the annual general electors meeting. An audio and or visual record will be made of these proceedings to assist in the taking of minutes. Acknowledgement of country. The Shire of Harvey acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal communities and their cultures, and to elders both past and present. Item 2, record of apologies. We have an apology from Mr Melvin Hetner, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Simpson and Councillor Adams. Are there any other apologies? Item 3, confirmation of minutes. The recommendation that the minutes of the 2018-2019 annual general electors meeting held on Tuesday 28th of January 2020 as attached be confirmed as a true and correct record. Moved Councillor Caboni, second Councillor Burgoyne. I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Item 4, receipt of annual report. We'll just run through a few highlights out of that. So I have great pleasure in presenting the Shire of Harvey annual report for 2019-20, and a year that has seen us challenged like never before, but one that has truly brought out the best in our community. I think the one thing it has highlighted the great community spirit throughout all of the Shire. Local government plays a major role in how we recover from a global crisis on a local level, and we've all been impressed with how the Council and the Shire staff have been able to support our residents, businesses and the community groups. And one of the most effective ways to lead a strong economic recovery is to generate local projects. And we have done this through the completion and planning of many key projects throughout the year. Stage 2 of the Brunswick River Cottages aged accommodation, the All Abilities Carragara play space at Ridley Place foreshore Australind, Bidding Up Volunteer Bushfire Brigade Shed, Australind SES and the Boundary at the Harvey Retton Cultural Centre. Young people are the future leaders in our Shire, and this year we celebrated 30 years of scholarship support for people aged 15 to 25 years to attend the Lewin Sail Training Program, and work is currently underway to develop the Shire's first youth strategy. It was also great to be able to welcome 166 new Australian citizens to the Shire throughout the year. They bring great diversity and culture to our wonderful community. Council continues to prioritise growing the local economy through supporting local industries and businesses, attracting investment and promoting initiatives to increase tourism. I'd just like to pass on my congratulations to my fellow councillors and all of our staff at the Shire of Harvey for the work that they have done over 2019 and 20, and a special thanks to the community for being behind us and helping us to achieve our collective vision of together towards a better lifestyle. Okay. We have a recommendation that the Shire of Harvey annual report for the year ending 30th of June 2020 as circulated be received. Moved Councillor Campbell, second Councillor Dickinson. Are there any questions, any discussion? I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? The motion is carried. Item 5, general business. Questions? Notice of motions?
Thank you, President Paul. For a while there I thought I was going to thank Council for arranging this meeting just for me, but it's good to see that there's a lot of people here. In the last 12 months, for all the time I've been coming to council meetings, last year was the first time that I've seen councillors actually threatened by people giving their deputations. It happened twice last year. Could you advise what action's been taken and what you could do to try to prevent this in the future?
I suppose the issues were contentious. Yes, but hopefully going forward that won't be a problem, hopefully. Yeah, and I suppose that's...
And I'd just like to concur with your report. The Shire's done a damn good job, and just thank everybody. Haven't always agreed with what the councils have done, but I'm not the one that's got to vote. You are, so well done.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or notice of motions?
There appears to be more Shire of Harvey vehicles being driven by staff, both within and outside the Shire over the past 1 to 2 years. Can the CEO please advise how many additional Shire vehicles have been approved since she commenced at the Shire, and what the cost of these new vehicles has been to the ratepayers of the Shire, both the initial cost and ongoing operating costs?
Mr. Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. As this is of a financial nature, I'll answer this question. So in 1920, there were 5 additional cars purchased, one for a surveyor, one for Parks and Gardens, the Special Projects Officer, Planning Services and Health Services. In 2020-2021, there have been 2 additional vehicles, Economic Development Officer and a 3rd Ranger vehicle. The average annual operating cost per vehicle is about $7,000, and the average annual capital cost per vehicle is around $9,000. All new vehicles are the result of the Shire's natural growth. Over the previous 10 years, the Shire has grown in population by 32%, which requires more service delivery staff and subsequently more vehicles.
Thank you. In response to a question from a councillor at a previous council meeting, the CEO indicated that the cost of the organisational restructure completed in 2020 was expected to be in the order of $20,000. Can the CEO please advise the following details with regard to the organisational restructure? Firstly, the title and number of all new staff positions created as a result of the restructure.
Maybe if we can have all those questions, and I'll answer all of those in block, if that's all right.
Secondly, the annual cost of any new positions related to the restructure, including base salaries, on costs and vehicle-related costs. Thirdly, the total amount of annual salary increases to existing staff to take on additional responsibilities associated with the restructure. Fourth, consultants' fees associated with the restructure, the ongoing costs of the restructure as a percentage of rate revenue, and justify the additional costs of the organisational restructure and how this has made the Shire a more efficient and effective organisation. And was the council initially misled when the cost of the restructure was greatly understated?
So in answering that question, or those questions, the Shire of Harvey previously operated with an executive team consisting of the CEO and 7 executive officers. The organisational restructure resulted in a more modern structure consisting of the CEO and 4 directors. 3 of the newly appointed directors came from amongst the previous executive officers. The 4th, Director of Community and Lifestyle, was funded by not replacing the Executive Manager Corporate Services following his relocation to Perth. The organisational structure places more responsibility on the executive leadership team, allowing the CEO to ensure better service delivery in line with the Shire's strategic community plan and Council's aspirations. Additional Shire officers have been employed as part of the Shire's natural growth and in line with Council's objectives. As previously stated, the Shire's population has grown by 32% over the last 10 years. To gauge the additional cost on ratepayers for the increase in employee costs over those 10 years, I've researched the percentage of employee costs to rates revenue for both the 2009 to 2010 year and then 2019-2020, which is that 10-year period. Employee costs to rates revenue in 2009-10 was 62%. In 2019-20, it was 64%. This comparison reflects no significant increase to employee costs compared to rates revenue over that past decade. Further, to ascertain whether the Shire's employee costs are appropriate or too high, an assessment was made on some of the Shire's comparable local governments, including the Shires of Dardaner, Augusta Margaret River, Manjimup, Serpentine Jarrahdale, and the cities of Bunbury and Busselton. The average of, this was taking the most current financial reports from those local governments, the average of those councils was at 76%, where ours is at 64%. And the lowest of those councils, being the city of Busselton, was at 63%. So the lower the percentage, obviously the better it is for our ratepayers. So that puts us in a good standing as far as where that comparison would be. In fact, that if we were to put dollar figures to that, then $2.5 million extra could be spent on employee costs to bring us to the average of those other councils. Just as I'm talking percentages, that puts it in light, not suggesting that we do that. But what it does highlight is that through that assessment, we are on track and we're not overburdening our local residents.
So we're not going to have increases in rates?
Over those past 10 years, there hasn't been an extra burden on the ratepayers. Going forward with the next budget period, Council will decide whether there's a requirement to increase rates or not.
Okay. That's it. Okay. So can you give me a sort of how much over the $20,000?
I didn't really want to go into the breakdown of the $20,000 because, as I highlighted, the structural reform was really moving a few staff to different titles, and it also included moving departments or management teams under different directorates. There wasn't a lot of cost in that. Overall, my understanding is that the $20,000 was over by an immaterial amount, something to the order of $30,000 or something like that.
So
but then
over is the 30,000.
Just let me finish on that.
Sorry.
That was for that one area. But then when we had the annual cost of employees over the course of the year, that was within the administration area. That was all within budget. So no, there was no material increase. There was no misstatement by the CEO, and there was definitely not an instance in the CEO misleading council in that.
Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other general business? I'll declare the